Welcome to lecture number 55, Advanced Topics in Object Oriented Programming. So, in this lecture, I will start with the Graphical User Interface GUI, right. So, GUI, so far we are seeing the output, right. Suppose you are writing, let us say 2 plus 3, right, equal to 5, or addition of two numbers, right. So, you see the output in the console. So, now is it possible to see in a graphical way or the visual way, right. So, now if you do the visual way of interacting with computers using buttons or menus and graphics, you call it as the graphical user interface. So, the key elements in graphical user interface are the widgets, buttons, right, the text fields and sliders. So, we will see an example, right. So, suppose you can see in some of the softwares, you can see the menu, right, top down menu, right. So, top down button, and you can even print, you can even type few things, you call it as a text field, and then you will have a sliders, right. So, like this you yourself can create now, right. So, this is what we are going to study in this chapter, and then after widgets there is a layouts, right. So, this is organizing widgets in the interface. Then we have a event handling, all right. So, responding to users action. So, these are all the main key elements, widgets, layouts and event handling. So, what are all the applications? So, you can have like desktop software. So, for example, text editors and games, right, the text editors, games. If you want to develop the software for, so let us say, you are working in a project and you want to create the graphical user interface, the elegant way. For example, the end user is giving, let us say, some input, you are taking the input data, right. So, you are displaying the message, right. Once you run the application, you are displaying a message, right. So, enter the input, you are entering the input, right. And then in the back end, this will do some process, that means assume that it is calculating factorial of a given number, alright. So, you are only entering, so it is displaying in a graphical way, enter the number, right. You are entering, let us say 7. So, what is 7 factorial? So, this is a simple example. So, like this you can think of, right. So, nowadays this is a AI and ML world, right. So, you can think of, alright. So, these are all the input even you can take from the file, alright. So, you are asking the user to enter the input, right. So, many AI ML applications or even quantum computing, right, applications, text editors, games, right. So, these are all main applications, and also you can have the tools with the user, right. So, for the friendly interaction, that means the user friendly interactions. So, the event driven programming paradigm, right. So, the core idea is application respond to events. For example, I can use the mouse to give the input, or I can do some clicks, right, with the mouse clicks, or I can have, let us say, pressing some keys, alright. So, for example, we know control C, control V kind of, right. So, you yourself can do it in your program, right. So, how this is working? So, listeners detect events, this is we are going to see, right. So, this is the main thing for all the programs that we are going to see, listeners detect events, and then handlers execute specific action in response. For example, I want to create a calculator, right. I want to create the login password environment, right. So, for all this you need the listeners detect events. So, you may use the lambda expression, and the handlers execute the specific actions. For example, you are clicking certain events, or you are writing a program for equivalent control C, control V, right. So, this works based on the listeners and handlers, and as I said, clicking a button triggers a function. I gave an example, control C, control V kind of equivalent, alright, and then typing in a text field updates the label, right. So, you can in the text field, you can type, right. So, these are all the event driven programming paradigm. So, now what are all the GUI development libraries? Java, if I take Java, I have Swing, JavaFX, right. So, when you have a lightweight graphical user interface toolkit, you have Swing, right. And a modern library for rich graphical user interface applications, you have JavaFX, right. Then Python, alright. So, in the case of a Python, you have Kinter and PyQt and PySci, alright. So, when you have a simple and user friendly or beginner friendly, we use Kinter, alright. So, for the advanced features, you use pyqt or pysci, right. So, these are all the graphical user interface libraries in Python, and C++ you have Qt, right, the comprehensive cross platform for graphical user interface framework in the case of C++. So, these are all the GUI development libraries in Java, Python and C++. So, now with this basics, right, so we can see the interesting graphical user interface. So, I just start with a simple GUI in Java. So, we have class simple GUI, this is a driver class, right, and you have the main program, right. So, you have the main program and here you have the object frame, right. So, you have the object frame, right. So, object frame is under class Java frame, right. Here you have button, that is an object under Java button, J button, right. So, you are including, as I said, swing, right. So, you are including Java X swing. So, now let us say you have frame object, right. So, you have frame object in line number 5. On the right hand side you are allocating a memory where it is calling the constructor JFrame, and when it is calling a constructor you are passing simple GUI, right. So, that means we are going to create sooner or later with the help of the frame object. The frame object will call several methods, right. So, then the simple GUI will be printed, right. So, in a simple GUI will be there in the graphical user interface. I mean the title kind of the frame, you call it as a frame, the frame is simple GUI, it will be printed. And similarly, in the case of the button, click me will be printed, right. So, that means in the right hand side you have the memory allocation, the dynamic memory allocation, and here you have the constructor, right. So, the button there is click me, and here you are having this lambda expression, right. So, the button, the object button is invoking add action listener, right. So, this adds an event listener, that is called the event listener, right. So, this is adding the event listener to the button, right. So, this event listener is implemented using, this is called the lambda expression, right. So, which is a concise way to define behavior of the button click, right. So, when you click the button or when the button is clicked, right, assume that you are clicking the button, then this button click will be displayed or printed, right. So, this button click will be printed. So, this is the lambda expression, correct. So, this is where I talked about the event listener, right. So, the event listener, add action listener, right. So, this is called the event listener. I in fact told in the one of the slides, right. Yes, listener detect events, how it works, right. So, this here in this case, the line number 8, you call it as the event listener, right. So, rest of them are very trivial. Now, the object frame is invoking add function, right, add method, right. So, you are passing button and you are setting a size, height is 200, width is 300, right, that is the meaning of this, and the frame is invoking set default close operation, right. So, once everything is over, this will be closed, and set visible, it is invoking set visible by passing true, right. So, when you are running the code, right, you will get the output like this, right. So, add, you are passing button, right. When the button is clicked, that will be taken care on this add action listener, or you call it as a event listener. Set width is, I mean to say set size is 200 height and 300 width. So, when you run the code, you will get the output like this, right. JFrame simple GUI is being printed in line number 5, and next you have click me. So, this visual information you will get, this first time we are learning, right. So, this is based on the swing. Maybe we can try to run this code in Java, because first time we are learning, it is always better to run the code. Yes, here you can see simple GUI, correct, and click me. So, when you click this, that is what I said, button click will be displayed, right. So, that is what I said. So, here you have simple GUI, whenever I click, you can see button clicked, right. I am trying one more time, see you are getting the output, correct. So, this is what exactly I told. So, once you click me, right. So, the button clicked, that means the add action listener, or you call it as the event listener, whenever you are clicking the click me, right. So, whenever you are click me button, right. So, the button click will be displayed. In fact, we had seen this, right. So, you can see the output, button click will be displayed. I hope it is clear. So, you can enjoy the program, you can write it and do many things, so that we will see. So, here we have calculator, simple calculator in Java, visualized one, right. So, here I have a class calculator. So, you are adding swing AWT and AWT dot event, importing. So, class calculator, this is driver class, and here I have the main. So, as usual, right, I have frame, which is an object under J frame. So, here the calculator frame, the calculator will be displayed like the previous program, and here I have text field object under J text field, you will have a text field, right. So, with you are calling the default constructor J text field, and then button add, you have plus, right, you are passing plus, right. So, in the window, so we will have plus, right. So, like this it will be printing, it will be there, right. So, J button, it is calling the constructor J button where you are passing plus and subtraction similarly, and then you have result object under J label, right. So, it is printing result 0, your plus minus and result 0. So, this we are going to see that. So, now as usual like the previous program, so here we have the event listener, right. So, this is your event listener. So, again the lambda expression you are seeing over here, right. So, this is a lambda expression. So, in this lambda expression, here we have add action listener, the button add is invoking add action listener, right. So, here when I have this, we call it as lambda expression, that E arrow and everything, and here if you look, the integer is invoking parse int, right. So, whenever you are typing some text, get text, right, the text field is invoking get text, right. So, whenever you are typing some text, so that will be converted into integer, parse int converted into integer, and then this result, right, the object result which is invoking set text, right. Suppose I have some number, so the number will be incremented by 1, right, number plus 1, I have result number plus 1, and similarly this is for the case of addition, right, button add action listener, right, button add, yes, you have line number 9. So, line number 9 object which is invoking the event listener, you call it as add action listener, right. So, now again button sub which is in line number 10, another event, right, another event listener, or you call it as a add action listener, right, it is invoking button sub, right. So, button sub object you are defining in line number 10, right. So, now exactly same, whatever text you are typing, so that will be converted into integer and the result will be subtracted by 1, right, result will be subtracted by 1, num minus 1, right. So, that is what you are doing in this is also a lambda expression, right. So, we are seeing two lambda expression, one is this and the second one is this. So, now rest of them is not very difficult. So, you have a panel object under J panel class and this is your constructor, right. You have the object panel which is invoking add, right. So, you are adding text field, you are adding button add, right, you are adding button subtraction, right, and then add result, right. So, you are invoking this add like exactly what we have seen in the previous program, all these field will be there in the graphical user interface. So, now frame is invoking add, so panel will be there, right. So, panel whose size is 150 height and width is 400, that is the meaning, 400 comma 150, 150 is height, 400 is the width, and then whatever the operation that you are doing, once it is over it will be closed, right. So, that is happening in line number 30 where frame is invoking set default close operation, right, and then you have a set visible, right. So, you have to see the visibility of the GUI by passing true, right. So, when I run the code, I will get the output like this, right. You have some text field, in fact calculator we put, right, this is what printing calculator, and then what are all the field, you have plus, you have minus, and then result by default it is 0, right, that is what you are doing, line number 11, right. So, my GUI look like this. So, what we can do, we will run the code and we can see the output. We will run the second code, Java calculator, yes, here you go, we are seeing the output, and then you see if I click plus, yeah, you can type whatever you want, the number 3 plus 1, 4, right. So, you can put 5, 5 plus 1 is what? 6. So, 5 plus 1, 6. Now, what we can do? Put 10, 10 minus 1, right. So, 10 minus, if I put minus, 10 minus is what? 10 minus 1 is what? 9. So, we are getting 9. Okay. So, these kind of simple program you can start with, right, and you yourself can create the GUI like this, right, at one point of time, right. So, once you are familiar, so you can create the graphical user interface in Java. Okay. We will see the third program, color changer graphical user interface in Java. All right, another interesting program. So, let us have, so here you have swing awt.event star, this you are importing. So, public class color changer, all right, it is a driver class, and I have the main program, right. So, frame is an object like exactly what we had seen, frame object under JFrame. So, that means color changer will be displayed in the frame, and button you have change color, right. Button is an object and J button is the constructor where you are passing change color, right. Similarly, JFrame in the line number 7, JFrame was the constructor passing color changer. So, color changer will be displayed and inside you will have change color. Line number 9, you have object panel under the class Java panel, right. You have a constructor over here. So, I will have a panel. So, now again you have the event listener. Here you have the event listener. The button is invoking the event listener, you call it as a add action listener. So, now you have an object new color under class color, all right, which is inbuilt, and here you have the constructor, you are passing RGB, red, green, blue. So, here what you are doing, you are calling math rand. So, math random here is the closed interval 0.0 to open interval 1.0. This number will be generated. Math.random will generate the number between 0.0, the closed interval, that means inclusive, 1.0 exclusive. And then when you multiply by 255, it's a random number, right? Multiply with the 255, so you will get the number between 0 to 254, right? So, that means R value, for example, R you are getting 100, G you are getting 200, B you are getting 220. So, this will form one color, right. So, that is why we have put this, right. So, some combination of colors will be generated, right. So, that you set as a background, set background, that means panel is invoking set background. So, that means the panel, whatever the color is being generated, right, since this object is new color, so that new color will be displayed, all right. So, we will see further. This is your class color changer, all right. So, now the panel is invoking add button like exactly the previous program, and then frame is invoking add panel, right, and frame is invoking set size 200 is height and 300 is width. Then once you are seeing, then you have to close, that means the visibility set visible you are passing true. So, you have a set default close operation in line number 22 and then the visibility. Suppose if I run the code, I will get the output. So, this is the color, randomly generated color, and then when I keep on clicking this change color that we are going to test, and then the color will be changing, right. So, this interesting program we will see in the Java compiler, right. So, we will go to Java compiler and we will run the code and you can see the change of the colors, right. So, I am running Java. So, here if I click change color, first initially color, right. So, you are getting green now, now you are seeing another pink, right. So, the color is changing, right. So, when you are running this code, so it is very interesting that you are seeing change color. Maybe one more time if I do, so right now green, yeah, this is changing to some other color, maybe one more time, right. Now it is a blue, right. So, change color you can see that, right. So, this is color changer GUI, we had seen this, right. So, now like any, suppose you want to enter your email ID or let us say the social media, all right, if you want to enter the login and password. So, is it possible to create on your own, right, using Java Swing, right. So, we will see another interesting program how we are going to have the login form. So, here you have Swing importing. So, login form is the class, that is the driver class, you have the main program, all right, object frame under Java frame, J frame, that is a class. Here you have the dynamically allocated memory with the constructor J frame, you have login form. So, the frame will print login form, we are going to see the frame will be login form, and you have user label under Java label. So, constructor username, right. So, the username, the field you are giving 15 characters, and the password, pass label, object pass label under J label you have password, right, you are giving 15 characters, right. And once you have, let us say, login password, you will have a login, right, username password, and there will be login, right. So, that is also will be printed. So, login button under Java button, here you have a constructor, you will have login, right. So, now here you have the event listener, right. So, this is your event listener with the add action listener, and username is a string, right, line number 13. User field is invoking get text, right. So, whatever text you are printing, that is your username, and similarly password, right, similarly password, the pass field is getting the password, that's so that is also string, right. And line number 15, your Java option pan, which is invoking show message dialog. So, once you are login, it will show welcome, whatever be the username, for example, Bala IITR, welcome Bala IITR, it will tell like this, right. So, here your lambda expression is over here, line number 17, all right. So, we will further go in the class. So, you are still in login form class as usual, right. You have object panel under class Java panel, you have a constructor J panel, which is no argument, that is a default constructor, and panel 1 is invoking add, you have a user label, you have a user field, pass label, pass field, right, username, password, right. And then we are adding login button also, right. So, login, the usual one, right. So, that is why this visualization I have chosen, right. And line number 25, frame is invoking add panel, height is 200, width is 300, as usual the close operation and set visible operation. So, when I run the code, I will get the output like this, right. So, it is interesting. So, you have login form, right, that is what we have seen in line number 5, right, login form, and then you are having username, you can type, password you can type, click login. So, then you have to get like this. So, whatever username I am typing, I have to get welcome the username, right, Bala IITR, suppose assume that Bala IITR, welcome Bala IITR, right. So, that we will get. So, this interesting output or the code we will run in Java compiler. So, when we run the code, it's a login form, yeah, here you go. So, we type something Bala IITR and then some password. So, login, yeah, you can see the output, right, welcome Bala IITR, press OK. Maybe you can try something else, right, let us say Pradeep IITR and then some password, right, and when I log in, when I click login, yes, welcome Pradeep IITR, we are getting the output, right. So, in fact, I mean you can think of, right, formulating this graphical user interface, and we will see one more program, the counter application in Java, all right. So, we will use the array and then we will do the similar one. So, now you are mostly familiar, right. So, swing, porting swing, counter app is your driver class, and here you have a main program. I have an object frame under J frame, class J frame. So, J frame you have a counter, that means in the frame counter will be displayed, and the counter label, right, it is upcasting with, yeah, not upcasting, J label only, right. So, your class is J label and your constructor is J label, now count is equal to 0, count is 0 initially, count colon 0, and then you are going to have increment, all right. So, 0 will be incremented by 1, 1 will be incremented by 2 and so on, all right, and then you are having a reset also. So, increment button, reset button. So, here you have an array counter. So, you are initializing to 0 first, right. So, initializing to 0, and then here you have event listener. So, what is your event listener? The increment button. So, that is invoking add action listener, right, the event listener. So, the event listener, what you are doing, the count of 0, right, the counter of 0, right. So, counter is an array, right. So, that is what we have put it, and counter of 0 will be incremented by 1, right? That is what exactly it will do. And counter label in line number 6, that object it is invoking set text and it is printing count with whatever be the initially count 0, assume that initially it is 0, it will be incremented by 1 because of this, right. So, suppose 0, now it will be 1, suppose it is 1, now it will be 2, and so on, right. So, similarly we can reset, right, another event listener reset. So, these two are lambda expressions, right. Anyway, we have seen several times. So, this is one lambda expression and the event listener is a add action listener for increment button, and here you have reset button, right. So, this is the second lambda expression, correct. So, here you have, and now we are resetting to 0, right, we are resetting to 0, and then you are printing that counter of 0, counter of 0. So, counter of 0 is 0 now. So, this will be printed. Rest of them is similar. You have panel object, the default constructor is jpanel, panel is invoking add counter label, panel is invoking add increment button, and panel is invoking add with the reset button. So, increment button and reset button. So, frame is invoking add panel, the panel height is 150 and width is 300. As usual, you have the close operation and set visible, you are passing true, right. So, the last 27 and 28 we are keep on right seeing in all the programs, if you recall, right. So, when I run the code, I have to get the output like this, right. So, counter, right. So, that is what line number 5, counter is displayed, right, and counter count colon 0 in line number 6 displayed, increment reset, right. So, here you have increment reset. So, now we will run this interesting code. So, we will go to the Java compiler, counter app. So, counter you are seeing count colon 0 increment reset. So, now we will click increment 1, 2, 3, 4, right. So, you are getting everything. Now, reset, it will be resetting to 0, again put increment, right, maybe up to 10 we will go, right. So, keep on incrementing one by one. Okay. So, you can change your program, suppose you want to do increment twice, increment thrice, or I am giving an exercise. So, try to print the prime numbers every time, next prime, next prime, next prime. So, this you can take it as an exercise. Initially, first few you start with the first prime 2, right, then you write your code, right, in the back end, and then what is the next prime, next prime, next prime. So, these are all the exercise that you can think of, all right. So, we have seen several interesting programs with the help of graphical user interface. Maybe one more program we can see, the drop down menu, right. So, we have used in several softwares. So, is it possible that can you create the top right drop down menu, right. So, as usual Swing is being imported, you have a drop down menu class and this is your main, all right. So, drop down menu is a driver class and here you go, frame is an object under JFrame, all right. So, this will be printed in the frame drop down menu, and in the label you have select an option. So, this we had seen several times, you know that, and here you have an object drop down under J combo box, Java combo box of string, right, Java combo box of string. So, that means in that case you have dynamically allocated memory with the constructor, right. So, you are having string, the string contains this option 1, option 2, option 3, that means it will come as a drop down menu, right. Suppose you are choosing country in some of the portal country. So, you will get, then you are choosing, right, that kind of menu, you call it as option 1, option 2 and option 3, this we are going to see that, right. And then you have the event listener, right. So, here you have drop down is invoking add action listener, selected is an object under string, right. So, now you are having this function get selected item, right. So, which item you are selecting, which one you are clicking, for example, option 1 I am clicking, right. So, that will be invoked by drop down and it is assigned to selected. For example, I am selected, let us say option 2, right. So, that will be printed over here, you selected option 2, right. How this works, show message dialog, right, will invoke. So, you are passing the frame and then this has to be printed, right? Selected already there. Assume that I have selected option 2, all right. So, Java option pan will invoke this show message dialog, all right. So, this is your lambda expression. So, I have one lambda expression here, line number 11 to 15 is a lambda expression, right. So, then as usual panel is an object, right, under the class JPanel. So, here you have constructor, default constructor, the panel is invoking add label, add drop down, and the frame, right, which is adding panel. Panel height is 150 and width is 300. As usual, close operation and set visible method, right, close operation and set default close operation and set visible methods, right. So, set visible method you are passing true. So, when I am running the code, I have to get the output like this, right. So, you are seeing drop down menu, select an option. So, let us say what option we are selecting, accordingly it will be printing, right. So, it will print like this. Suppose assume that option 1 I selected, it will print you selected option 1, line number 14. Okay. So, this we will check in the program. So, we will run the code, drop down menu. So, here you go, select an option, right. Let us say I select option 2, right. I click option 2. We will try one more also. Yes, you selected option 2 is being printed. So, let us see, now I select option 3, you selected option 3, maybe one more left, we select option 1, right. You are getting you selected option 1, right. So, these kind of interesting programs you can run, right. So, this is what we had seen. So, some of the applications that we had seen, I think 4 or 5 applications we had seen in GUI. So, we started with the calculators like basic arithmetic operators, in fact, the plus minus if you look, right. So, you can extend further, right. So, these are all some of the GUI applications. So, you can make a basic calculator, right. So, the basic calculator that contains arithmetic operations, right. So, you can see what are all the operations are there, right. So, in fact, you have the application in several operating system. So, here what you can do, whatever we have done, the first program we have done calculator, maybe we have done plus and minus, right. So, you can extend the program and then see the graphical user interface for calculator by adding the buttons and text fields, right. And what are all the to do list? So, what you can do addition, right, addition, right, you can do editing, right, and the deletion tasks. So, these are all the things you can do. So, the input is the text field and check boxes, and also contact manager, right. Suppose you are, the second point is to do list, if you want to do something today, right. So, that also you can develop, all right. And third one is contact manager. So, the contact manager you can store and search for contacts, all right. So, you can store the person or you can store the information and then you can search, all right. So, these operations you can do, right, with the help of graphical user interface. And also in this case the input should be database integration. So, whatever the input that you are giving, for example, one particular person you are giving certain information, it has to be integrated. For example, first time you have added one phone number and let us assume after 10 days you are adding for that particular person. So, we are doing this integration. So, these things can be done with the help of GUI in fact, and many challenges we can face, all right. So, the first one is the cross platform compatibility, right. Somebody may use one operating system and you are using another operating system. So, is it possible, right, to do the cross platform, right. So, in that case it may have a different behavior on operating systems. Responsive design, right. So, adapting to different screen sizes, right. So, somebody may use in the mobile and somebody may use in the right big screen desktop or laptop, right. So, in that case, so that is a very, I mean, a difficult issue even if you are making a website. So, this problem you can, I mean, some people may ask, so how it looks in the right desktop and how it looks like in the mobile, right. The mobile version, they call it as a mobile version, they call it as a desktop version, all right. So, that is very challenging. And performance, all right. So, sometimes, right, since you are using a graphics, the rendering problem, right. So, these are basic problems in graphics. So, slow rendering can happen, right. So, for complex graphical user interface, the slow rendering can happen. And you have to verify for all user flows and edge cases, right. So, testing and then accessibility. So, ensuring usability for all the users. So, these are all the major challenges one can face when you use the graphical user interface. So, with this I am completing the complete chapter, right, the advanced concepts. I hope, right. So, you have learned so many things, right, starting from, right, network programming, etc., and I ended with the graphical user interface. Thank you.